Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to a full house. Welcome to a rainy Tuesday in downtown Houston. It's a very heartwarming February 14th. Thank you all for being here. And also, welcome to all of our guests online on the OGGN network. As you can see, we are broadcasting live on their network. It reaches basically every country in the world. It's from Ecuador to East Timor. They have listeners, I think it was 199 countries is the number. 2.6 million people listen to the OGGN, and we're very grateful to have them sponsor us and to be broadcasting us all over the world from right here in downtown Houston. Now, please allow me to welcome Jay Sims to give our invocation.
Hey, thank you. Welcome. Real quickly, we have a prayer breakfast to have every year annually. First Tuesday of May, 2nd of May, a hotel across the street. We've been there for many, many years. So you're all invited to the Oilfield Christian Fellowship prayer breakfast on May the 2nd. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the time together. We thank you, Heavenly Father, for your smartness and willingness to continue to bless us. Bless each and every family here represented, Heavenly Father. Bless the food nourish our bodies, Lord, and continue to bless our country and bless our business. We love you and praise your name. In Christ's name, that's these things. Amen.
Thank you, Jay. And now please welcome Matt Eves from IADC.
Thanks. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody, to using yours. If I would have known this was going to be broadcasted to so many countries, I would have talked my 5-year-old daughter out of not picking my pink tie out today. But here we are. Just a couple announcements from the IADC. We've got our clay shoot March 24th. It's going to be at Westside Sporting Clay Center. And then also we want to, this is the first time we've had this, but we've actually have some very special guests. Some biggest contribution that the IADC does is award scholarships to students that are looking into getting into the industry. We really kind of diversify that across different disciplines and different engineering backgrounds. And so we'd like to, we have a lot of those scholarship recipients with us today. So if you guys would stand up, just be recognized and give them a round of applause. We have representation students from University of Houston, Texas A&M, really quality individuals. A lot of them are looking for internships and jobs. So if you are looking, contact your local student here at the luncheon. That's about it from us. Appreciate it. Great turnout, and looking forward to the speakers.
Thank you very much. Just a couple quick announcements before we begin with our panel today for API. You may have heard me mention in the previous months that this Friday, February 17th, will be the first time we're having a black tie gala. First time since the 1980s. And I'm I'm beyond over the moon and proud to say that we sold it out. In fact, we oversold it. And we'll probably put some tables by the buffet. Just kidding, there's no buffet. I can't wait to show you some videos of this. We're gonna have a videographer. Some of the speakers will be, we're giving a Lifetime Achievement Award to Mr. Gardner Parker. Some of his friends will be speaking. Actually, they're gonna be roasting him. It will be already on the docket is Roger Clemens, Warren Moon, Earl Campbell, and then I speak between them, and everyone's gonna be like, what are you doing there? Just keep moving. All right, next meeting for API will be April 11th. There is no meeting in March. We also have the Sporting Clays on April 28th. That will be at the American Shooting Center. The 3-Gun Challenge will be May 5th in Eagle Lake, Texas. And one of my favorites, Cowboy Days, June 9th through 10th over in Bryan, Texas. Just go on our website for more details and to sign up. Okay, and now let's go to our panel. I'm going to introduce one of our board members who really puts this together. He is our moderator today. He is a longtime friend of so many people in this room. He is none other than Mr. Mark LaCour.
No, I don't want to sit. I never sit. Hi, everybody. So we have an all-star panel. We're going to be talking about marketing oil and gas, how it's changed, and how to use it to drive sales. Justin mentioned earlier that this is being live streamed. Big shout out to my video crew in the background, man, the cameras and audio gear. Every social platform out there, if you pull your phone out and look on Twitter or LinkedIn or Facebook, we're there in real time with literally thousands and thousands of people around the world watching what we're doing. So don't be nervous. I like to call my panelists up. Come on, panelists, get up. So first up is Allison with National Oilwell Varco, or NOV. It's going to take me a decade to remember to say NOV instead of National Oilwell Varco. Then I have Jackie with Caterpillar, and then next to her I have Jacqueline with TCS, and then I have Matt with OGGN. Matt is our Chief Marketing Officer, but Matt also has his own agency. All right, so the whole theme here is how has marketing changed and how do you use marketing to drive sales? I suspect everybody in here either has line of sight to drive in revenue or it's your job, right, to drive revenue. So I want to start, before we get to the good stuff, I want to kind of start with the history. So panelists, when you think about marketing in this industry, how was it done in the past?
Trade shows.
Trade shows, what else?
Print. Is this on? Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of print advertising, lots of handshakes, deals made on the trade show floor, probably.
Golf courses,
Golf courses,
shooting ranges.
expensive dinners. I'm not saying that people don't do that, but yeah, that's what marketing used to consist of.
Yeah.
From my vantage point.
Pull the mic closer to you, Jackie.
Can you hear me? All right.
Yep.
So I'm new to oil and gas, but from my vantage point, kind of the outsider looking in, a big driver to me was brands were relying on their reputation and their overall brand presence that they had. And I think a huge part of that was because there was less uncontrolled media out there in the past. And so there was that. And then a huge part is the kind of, one-to-one sales relationships was the biggest focus, and less of a focus on the digital media and social media.
Yeah, I kind of want to talk about that relationship thing. So I've been in this industry for 25 years. I've sold technology my entire life. And a lot of people from the outside of our industry look at our industry and say, hey, we're old fashioned, right? You still sell on relationships. That's not what it is. We're risk adverse, right? We're one of the few industries that if you make a mistake, people die. And not only do people die, but you can have an environmental catastrophe which can destroy a company overnight. So when I have a vendor, I need to know I can depend on that vendor. It's not so much the vendor relationship buying and selling. It's the fact that if I lose control of a well in West Texas at 2 o'clock in the morning, do I know, vendor, I can call you and you'll roll a truck for me? And for years, those relationships is how we bought and sold stuff. However, the companies that buy stuff have realized that's not always the best way to get the good value for your money. Just because John plays golf with the VP at Chevron doesn't mean that's always the best decision. So what's happened from a sales point of view is now companies have decision-making teams. There is no longer that guy, right? There's no longer the decision maker. It's a team now. And so because of that, the old ways of marketing have changed. So panel, I'm gonna ask you, what's some of the other reasons marketing has changed in oil and gas?
So again, my name is Jacqueline. I'm with TGS, and I have actually been doing marketing for 20 years. So I started off as an intern at Shell and kind of worked my way through oilfield services, and now I'm at TGS. And so lots of ups and downs. And the first thing that is usually affected is your marketing team, because that is where they cut costs. So we're really good at doing a lot with a little in terms of cost and trying to measure the success of campaigns and how we spend our marketing dollars. So, and then on top of that, we have COVID, right? So again, we had a downturn, we had COVID, and then now everybody's excited about renewables. So you're having to shift and think about how to spend your dollars. So I think, whereas, back in the day, I worked for a company and we spent like $150,000 on a trade show booth at OTC. We don't do that anymore. We send on the boots, people on the ground. We secure speaking opportunities, and we might have a small show presence on the trade show floor. That's just one example of how things have changed, using your marketing dollars smarter.
So would you start when you were 7 if you've been doing it for this long?
No.
Well, and I have a different perspective. I started at NOV almost 9 years ago, 2014. I'm short, so I might need to scoot up and move it closer. But I really never knew anything. I've never known anything else at NOV besides a downturn, right? So me and my department, we've kind of always operated in a sense. Obviously, the folks that came before kind of knew the good old days, but we've always really operated on a very low budget. Like, we don't know what it's like to have a true marketing budget, right? So, I mean, it's kind of forced us to Jacqueline's point, to kind of get creative and kind of get scrappy in terms of, let's use the people and the resources that we have in-house. Let's leverage social media and those different channels that are free in a sense. We used to have a huge print advertising, I know was said earlier. We used to have a huge print budget, and when you're told that goes to zero, what do you do? So it kind of forced us to look at things differently and to leverage what we had.
Yeah, so I also bring a little bit different perspective as well. Being in marketing, I went to Texas A&M. I was a marketing grad there, and I've worked my way through ups and downs. But the biggest thing that's changed, I think, more than anything else, is mass marketing is the way that people used to do it, right? But everybody has a toaster. Everybody has a car. Well, with EV, that's going to change, I guess. But personalized marketing is key, okay? And data-driven analytics is different. Like, when you can use digital versus print, you can see what people are doing and you can change the campaign midstream. You can pivot. You can see what the data is telling you. Social media is a great way to test out things. You can try them out, see how people respond, and then you can put dollars behind it. So you're a lot more tactical today than you were maybe in the past. And I think I resonate with a lot of what was said on the panel of a big logo used to sell. I mean, with COVID right now, your digital storefront, like, that's what I'm seeing right now, is businesses cleaning up their digital storefront because they're not selling in person anymore. And when you talk about conferences, selling before, middle, and after the conference, there's a lot of ways to do that. I think we're going to get into some of that on the panel, but it's changed how people interacted. And the touch point when you shake hands is part of the sales journey, but it's like in the middle. It's not the beginning. It's not the end, potentially, right? Like, you might fly to meet somebody one time and then you do Zoom or, whatever technology you use, right? So I think that's been the shift, is from broad marketing to very targeted and narrow marketing.
Also, the workforce is different. People have retired, moved on, left the industry altogether. We were talking about that earlier. Like, we've had, half of our marketing team, leave us in the last year. So not only are you reaching people in a different way, you're reaching new people. So the guy that you used to go golfing with or, go to a customer event with might not even be at that company anymore. So.
Yeah. I think another thing I'd like to add about kind of why the change is needed is now, with not just social media, but the evolution of social media and additional media, you have people anyone can share their opinion on any platform, whether it's TikTok, podcasts, blogs. And then that leads also to, an opportunity for people who may have a negative outlook on the industry to be able to share their opinion anywhere and everywhere. And so, I think that's also led to the need for the industry to be so much more ESG focused, is because environmental activists, people like that, have the opportunity to blast out their opinion anywhere. And so from a marketing perspective, how do we not be reactive, but be proactive in leading that discussion and not responding to it and only kind of, taking the negative aspects of it?
Yeah, I kind of want to go back to something Jacqueline said. Matt touched on technology as well. So back in the late 80s, I'd go to OTC and spend $80,000 of my company's money, and I'd come back with $2 or $3 million worth of sales. But the reason that happened is there was no internet. So back in the 80s, Chevron and Exxon and Mobil, they went to OTC because it was the only place they could go to and talk to every valve manufacturer, every choke manufacturer. Now, when you go to OTC, if you notice, none of those super majors there, none of the majors are there. There's no reason for them to be there. If they want to talk to every choke manufacturer, they can go online and do it. So that layer of technology and the advancement of technology has changed the value of conferences, to y'all's point. Let's go a little bit deeper though into the social aspect of this, because I love what you brought up as far as ESG. Whether we like it or not, it's something we have to deal with. Same way with the thousands of people that are watching us online. I actually have somebody moderate that, so if somebody wants to be rude on our online presence, we kick them out. You used to not have to worry about that anymore. And I'm gonna catch you, Allison, right when you're taking a drink of water on purpose. David Reed, your CMO, did something years ago, which was revolutionary, even though nobody realized it was revolutionary. He convinced your executive team to open up the firewall to allow your employees to use social while they're at work. That was a big risk, but it's paid off. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I think most big companies like ours, the social media push was scary for that exact reason. Like, you're opening up anyone to comment, to, share information that's, proprietary or inappropriate. And I think we really have seen, especially, so yes, that was a good 5 or 6 years ago when we kind of just opened the floodgates. We haven't, knock on wood, we haven't had any major issues, right? And then also COVID really pushed us to open outside of, marketing owned the social platforms in terms of, NOV's content. But we also opened it up to have little pockets of champions within our brands that we own, to have ownership within the businesses, to own the voice of their brand and their channel as well, which again was kind of scary to some folks to think, it's not a streamlined kind of owned funnel there. But again, it's made our voice seem more authentic. It's given our brand champions within the businesses that have affinity to that legacy brand a chance to, share their story, and that resonates more and better with our customers than, the corporate voice. So.
And I know a lot of your sales team over there, right? I've known them for years. And the fact that now y'all are driving higher qualified leads because people now know who NOV really is, right, versus what the past PR NOV was.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do so much more than even our employees. Sometimes we're like, we make polls? What? That's so crazy. But yes, it's really opened up how expansive we are and how our offerings integrate with each other. And it's really been beneficial. And again, it's free, right? Like, we're not paying for that space. We're not paying for people to write and promote for us. It's our story and our voice.
Yeah, perfect segue to where I want to take this next, which is like real rubber executable stuff that people in the audience here and people in the online audience can actually use for their business. I want to talk about for each one of the panelists, can you just kind of talk a little bit about something that you've used in your job that's helping to drive revenue for sales from a marketing point of view? You want to start, Matt?
Well, okay, I can go on what you were saying about NOV. So NOV is a huge company, and they are probably all on the same IP network. And so you could geofence NOV, and then you could run ads to people on that network. Then there's also something called in-venue replay, where essentially you can target those people on their home networks. And so, especially with COVID, there's had to be some pivots, but you can actually go back 2 years and you can grab data. So if everybody, if you have an Apple phone, do you know that all phones have an address, just like your home has an address? And if you don't turn off privacy on Apple, we can get that data as marketers, and we can use that. We can even see what apps you're opening up on your phone, how many times. The data is anonymized, but you can figure out who is where at conferences. Is another option. On Google, or if you have an Android phone, the engineers are kind of making fun of you a little bit, because in the industry we call it pixels, right? And that's the name of the phone. And so it's really easy today to figure out who your target audience is, and bring that merger of marketing and sales together by starting off targeting qualified leads, not generating a wide funnel of branded marketing that maybe when it gets to sales, they qualify the lead. The sales are already qualified because you're targeting them at the source. Campuses are using this sort of thing too. With mailers. It's crazy.
So let me turn it backwards from NOV. So you're telling me that if National Oil Varco wanted to target everybody that worked at Chevron,
yes,
and show them an ad on NOV's latest downhole solution, you could do that?
Yes. So there was a I'm not going to speak to the company that were involved in this campaign that I ran, but essentially we ran a campaign targeting a large service company where we basically, the ad said, "We love you, call us." And we put the phone number because we didn't know who we were trying to reach. And literally that person got, I don't know, probably close to 100 plus emails forwarded to them, letting them know that they needed to set up this meeting. And that was something back in 2017 when it launched, when there wasn't as many limitations on what we were allowed to do. We could do some pretty fun stuff, but it worked. So they got the meeting, they closed the deal. And so yeah, you can target other oil companies, you can target service companies if you're trying to reach people. I think that's a little bit more aggressive, but I think from the conference standpoint, it's really, really effective to say, okay, I'm going to target these are the target companies that I want to reach out to. You could use the IP targeting to let them know that you're going to be at the conference, come by the booth, maybe you have some kind of prize or some kind of engagement. You can target the IP address of the conference or the hotel or the surrounding coffee shops. And then after it, you can follow up with them with retargeting to some kind of landing page. And so you can make your sales dollars go further is really, I think, the biggest shift that's happened from traditional marketing. They used to call it modern marketing, right? But now it's digital marketing. It's just the standard, I think, to a certain degree.
So Matt, could you target that conference without buying a booth? So could you get exposure to that conference audience without having to buy booth space?
Yeah, you can even hijack hashtags too online for conferences that you don't attend. Like if you're not going to go there, there's a lot of things that you can do to reach conferences. And there's a lot of companies that started to try some unique things when COVID hit because they had a big conference budget and then they couldn't spend it on conferences. So that's when we started using, so we run a lot of traffic. We are a full service agency, but essentially looking back 2 years, we could grab those people that were at those conferences and then run those ads to them. So
pretty cool. So Jacqueline, something that's real that you've used with your team.
So TGS is an energy data and intelligence company. We do a lot of seismic, but we've kind of diversified that. So we're all about data, tracking our data, tracking key performance indicators to measure the success of our marketing. So that is a big shift from when I first started out. You know, you would just go to a bunch of trade shows, you had a big budget, do some promos, and that's it. Not a lot of measurement of success, right? We were just supporting sales and whatever they needed. Well, today it's a lot different. We have to basically justify what we're doing and how that is directly contributing to the sales funnel. And the first step is understanding your business model, right? Like, we're not just putting out messages because we have a list of products and services we want to promote. It's more about attraction than a promotion these days, because you are competing with so many different voices. We've got competitors, we've got, subject matter experts, we've got opinionators, people who, just want to have a say. And so there's a lot of noise, right? And so understanding your business objectives is number one in your business model and what you're actually trying to achieve. And that's marketing must work with sales and business development to understand what those are, because then you come to a crossroads. Am I nurturing key accounts like Shell, Oxy, whatever? They're probably not really, we're not probably going to put a lot of digital efforts into those key accounts. That is more about relationships and nurturing those accounts, doing specialized customer events. But if we're trying to generate new leads in new markets to new buyers and they don't know who TGS is, we have to then attract them to our business. And I would say one of the number one ways we do that is through SEO. I would like to know how many people in the audience know what SEO is. Okay, quite a few. If you don't know what it is, it's search engine optimization, and we do it every day. If you're looking on your phone and you're Googling for something, whether it's a bike or a pair of shoes or an energy service that you're looking for, the first thing most people do is they go to Google and type in what they need. And what people type in, those keywords are so important. So it's our job as marketers to understand our customer and what they would be searching for in order for them to get to our site to then find the relevant content they would need to make that decision. I did this recently. We were looking for a copywriter, right? And I did copywriter in Houston, Texas, and that's how we found our copywriter. And they specialized in energy. And I was like, you guys did a great job on SEO and Google Ads. And that is how people are searching and finding the content, the information, the products and services they need. One of our business units, TGS, we acquire a lot of companies. And one of the companies that we acquired, 90% of their revenue is coming from SEO. 90%. And so it's important for us to invest in that and kind of apply that throughout our business, but where it's relevant. So if we're managing key accounts, that might not be so important. But if we're wanting to generate new leads, that is definitely a key tactic that I would focus on. And I understand that there are going to be some marketing organizations that have the bandwidth to do that in-house, but then there are also tools out there like SEMrush where you can just go and get a subscription and kind of learn lots of YouTube videos. I mean, I'm just saying there are ways to kind of implement it from a very simplistic approach. And then if you have the dollars to spend, there are agencies that specialize in these things that can definitely help your team out.
So I want to clarify this because we use SEO as well, have for years. So if I sold mud pumps, I could write good, intelligent articles about mud pumps. And if Google thought I was a good resource, when somebody searched for mud pump, I would come up first ahead of maybe somebody National Oil or whatever.
Right.
I would outrank them and my cost would be zero.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And so it's just understanding your target audience, who your buyers are, what they might be searching for. And this means as marketers, we have to talk to our customers. We have to work with sales to get that customer feedback so we know what keywords we need to target. But essentially, yeah, the cost is nominal compared to going to put a print ad in the leading edge or something like that, right? So, if it's done right and it's a focus for your company to generate leads, this is definitely an easy win.
Yeah, I agree. So Jackie, something that you've used that's helped driven sales in your company.
Yeah, so our focus kind of for our marketing strategy at CAT this year is thought leadership. And so I have two kind of like tips or tricks on that. But before I go into that, kind of why is thought leadership our focus this year? And if you can establish yourself or your company as a thought leader, then you're in the room with your client even when you're not there. When they're thinking about things, when they're trying to solve a pain point or a problem, and you've established yourself as that thought leader, then you're in that room with them. And so that's what we're trying to establish at CAT Oil and Gas. And we want to provoke the discussions and lead the discussions, be a part of solving the problems that our industry is having. And kind of two little tips that I have if you're trying to get into thought leadership is one, kind of going off of what Jacqueline was saying, is you want to really make sure that your content is geared towards your target, that you're really focusing in on that. And so if you've noticed, if you go into Google and you search a question, there's now this new feature where it's going to say almost on top of a lot of the organic results, it's going to say people also ask. And it provides these little drop downs of questions that people are also searching when they're searching this exact question. So if you have a question from your sales team or customer of a problem that they're facing and they're asking you to help, put that question into Google and then see what are also people asking when they're searching this. And then as you click on each of those drop downs, it'll actually continue to give you more and more options. So sometimes I'll do that until I have 30 additional questions. And I'll look at that of okay, now let me kind of curate and target these for what is our client asking and create thought leadership educational content around those questions, solving that, not selling your product or pushing your service, but how does my service or product solve the problem or question that they're asking? And then the second kind of tip is taking kind of long form, what we call long form content in marketing. This could be a podcast recording. This could be a case study, a white paper, using your SME to help you create that, and then taking that and splicing that into 10, 20 additional pieces of short form content. And so that could be infographics, FAQ series on a email drip campaign, a social video reel, social posts, et cetera. And so using those two things to really educate and inform on what your customers' pain points are.
Yeah, let me tell you what's great about being seen as a thought leader. You're no longer a salesperson, right? You're an asset to the buyer's team. Yeah, it's a great place to be if you're a salesperson when they see you and your company as a thought leader. Allison, your turn.
Yeah, so mine kind of piggybacks on yours, which is great. It's good timing. But yeah, really, we've been leveraging content from our own people, right? And not only, that's kind of the traditional method of getting content and putting it into a brochure, a piece of sales collateral, or on your website is, a writer on our team would interview an SME, and it would take a few months to kind of finalize that content, get it approved, get it laid out, get it published. And so 2020, actually, COVID, again, kind of forced us to do this as we were needing content. We were needing fresh content all the time. We started hosting internal live shows where one of our employees was interviewing an SME or a product line director, and they're just casually talking about the product, right? So it's not a sales pitch necessarily. It's talking about, the technology and the engineering behind the product. And, it's a more organic way to share your story. And it's us sharing our story from, the person that in some cases invented that technology. So it's fast, right? Like it's a live show. So obviously it's live. So the content is immediate. And then also you can slice and dice it and pull quotes, and then, later on build collateral and other pieces to kind of leverage that content in that way. So that's been really successful for us. And again, it's all internal in the sense that, we're lucky enough to have videographers and folks that, a full multimedia team to support us in-house, but it's really helped us, share our story in a way that, again, is really zero marketing dollars, which the company loves that. So.
Yeah, Mark, I wanted to frame some of this up because sometimes you get overwhelmed with the amount of things that you should be doing, all the different social media platforms, creating content, SEO, everything that everyone's talking about. I think what's important to do and answer the public or ask the public is also really, really good. There's some really good third-party tools out there. Ahrefs, they sponsor our podcast. What I would say is target persona and customer journey. Okay, so figure out who you're going after. And I really like what you said, because sometimes you're targeting people that are in the oil field. Okay, and then you're targeting white collar in the office, and then you're targeting C-suite. And so understanding that conversation and those touch points along the customer journey of the pieces of content they need to see to buy are going to be different. And so you got to start out building that target persona and say, okay, if there's a panel of people that are going to buy, and these are the 3 target personas, each one of those needs to be customized to reach them, right? Like they need to see a certain kind of content. They need to see certain kind of thought leadership. Like you can draw it out of here are the people that we're going to target. And then here's the channels, the mediums we're going to do it. Here's the pieces of content they need to see. Here's the questions that we're going to answer. And then you can pull it all together. And so they were talking about long tail key phrases. That is absolutely critical because for some really bulk keywords that are top of the funnel, you might not be able to outspend an NOV if you're a smaller company. But there's a specific question or there's a specific long tail phrase that's maybe further down the funnel that they might not have focused on. And if you own that content cluster in that area, you can outrank them. Funny enough, just a side story outside of oil and gas. I was working with a jiu-jitsu company here in Houston. They have multiple locations. We outranked the people that invented jiu-jitsu online. That was pretty fun. And so SEO is so powerful, and that authority that you see. I mean, if you look at the data and analytics, before someone buys, they probably go back to your site like 19 times, okay? And multiple different channels. And so you have to hit them at every one of those touch points. And you just want to frame up who you're going to reach and how you're going to reach them. And then focus on that customer journey and don't worry about everything else. Just focus on that. And then you can add to it as you go. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of power there. One year we outranked NAPE for their own conference, NAPE, right? So we showed up first with Google, which somebody searched for NAPE in Google, and Nate was not real happy with us, but we did do it on purpose. We're getting a ton of questions online. We're going to open up the audience a little bit in a few minutes for questions for everybody. But any other comments? Because I love where you're going with this. You're talking about real, actual stuff. And Allison, to your point, y'all have an in-house videography team, production team, but literally you could do the same work with your cell phone.
Yeah, and to touch on what you're saying in terms of it's different people that you're targeting at different stages. So obviously our show is produced. It's coming from the NOV corporate voice in a sense, but we really opened up the social channels for our brands to own their voice for that exact same reason, right? So someone's in the field filming something on their iPhone, talking about it, posting it, that customer base that he or she is trying to reach, they're going to see that and that's going to hit them in the right way. So yeah, it doesn't have to be polished and pretty. It can be organic, and sometimes those work even better.
Yeah, Matt, you and I have a little experience with podcasting. That's another easy way to create content. If you're a company out there with more than 2 people, think of every single question a customer's ever asked you. That's a podcast subject, right? And look at what we're doing right here. We are literally creating content for API, right, with the live stream. You want to talk a little bit more about, maybe some ways that smaller businesses can actually use some of these techniques?
Yeah, I actually, I'm trying to finalize a book on podcasting called No Like Trust. I have a couple other things that I've written about over the years, but what I would tell you about podcasting is content generation, to everyone's point, is the most difficult thing, and it almost has to be done in-house to be authentic. I mean, you can help around the edges, but you have to have the buy-in from the company doing it. So doing it yourself, the data points say that content on your phone. Okay, so you want that shiny content for, again, that right target persona, but content on your phone, I think the 3 times more trust is associated with it because it's real. And so brands have started to own what they're doing, and a podcast is a great format for people to follow, to create a lot of content that can then be repurposed for many different channels organically. I mean, like, think about it. When you target like on LinkedIn, what's interesting is the algorithm. If you talk about jobs or you talk about hiring, they'll boost your post, right? And so you have to, again, know what your target audience is, but you have to have good contact to engage them. No one wants to look at the stock art with some kind of post and engage just with that, right? And so it all starts with content creation. That's what a podcast is. Whatever time period is, you can turn it into reels and shorts, which are doing quite well right now. And all this you could do with yourself if you have time, or if you have admin in the office, and then you utilize the power of iTunes to syndicate that out to everywhere there's a podcast, and then Google picks it up and it gets indexed in Google. And so if you use the SEO properly, you can show up at the top of the search engines. So if you search for best SEO podcast, our podcast comes up, right? And we bring in a lot of traffic that way.
That's actually how I met Matt. So time for questions from the audience. I'm walk with the microphone. While I'm walking with the microphone, Whitney Kosh on LinkedIn has a couple of questions. She'd love for the panel to talk more about social media champions and also about the KPIs y'all use to report back to your management to justify your time and budget. Audience, you have a question, raise your hand.
From a social media champion standpoint, one thing that I think is important to hit, you want to have that authentic kind of voice and tone coming from these champions. And you don't want them to sound like the company voice. But sometimes for people who aren't in marketing, that can be kind of a struggle or a daunting task. And so I have our marketing team, we're working on kind of creating some brand guidelines for some of our brand ambassadors and champions. Okay, this is kind of based off of us getting to know you. This is what your kind of voice looks like, and this is how you can implement that out in social media, while also helping us communicate some of the things that we're wanting to communicate from Kat, but staying true to who you are and not using just the kind of Kat brand and Kat voice.
And what about the KPIs that y'all report back?
In terms of KPIs, if we're talking about events, we use Salesforce, and so our doesn't connect perfectly, but our CRM and Salesforce speak, and so we make sure that, we have a pre-show, an event, like you said, and a post-show activities, right? We don't just show up to an event and say hi and then leave. Like, we track our leads, we track booth traffic and things like that. And then we track the engagement around the event promotions so that we can then report back, like, we got X amount of marketing qualified leads, X amount of intel, sales and business development intel. And then we compare that year over year because we've been doing it for quite some time. And then in terms of social media, it's all about engagement. And sometimes it's followers depending on what your KPIs are. But anytime you can track the funnel from a marketing lead to how it contributes to revenue, that's where the money lies. So, yeah.
We have a question.
Hi, Noah Buck with NOV. First of all, Allison, thank you for your team's efforts in helping us on the outside sales part of the business. We really appreciate the integration and how they help us there. There's some conversation about authority, narrative control, SEO. To what degree have you seen things like, or specifically ChatGPT impact that? Because it's taking the whole concept of ranking and eliminating that to one answer. And so do you think that perhaps you'll have control over being the answer, or how do you think that that's going to go?
It's such a new avenue. I don't know if we know the answer to that quite yet. I mean, I don't personally. I think Google's really scared about that in general, right? That's a ton of their revenue comes from selling those rankings. So I'm not quite sure to answer your question. Do you guys know? I was literally reading an article about it this morning. It's such a new thing and I think there's a lot more change coming with it. With Microsoft kind of buying it and Google's developing their own things. One thing, like I mentioned earlier, that people also ask tabs. So from an SEO perspective, it kind of stinks because people aren't clicking into the links as much. They're just dropping down and seeing that short kind of snippet. But what I have noticed on those, almost majority of the time, before that, people also ask, there's videos. And that's where, the kind of podcast and video content is really starting to even be more important, is because that's kind of showing up before ads, before the people also ask, before the organic results. Google's putting video at the very top. And so how can you leverage that? And I think while the AI and the chatbots, it's going to be something that we all figure out and have to address. The more you can have that kind of humanized answer and humanized content online is going to, I think, succeed.
We looked at, or are still looking at Drift. It's kind of like a chatbot, I guess, application you can add to your website. But the challenge is we want our interactions to be personal. And so it was just kind of adding that middleman in the middle that we really don't see a need for right now. But that's not to say that we wouldn't move there in the future. I think this might be a controversial thing to say, but oil and gas marketing we're not like, at the forefront of marketing, because a lot of these things people have been doing these things in different industries for quite some time. I mean, SEO has been used by the digital, segment of the world essentially for a lot longer than we've been probably implementing it. At least that's my view. So I think it's coming, just don't know how.
We are behind times in marketing. It's not something we need to hide from, right? That's why we're having this panel. We educate the audiences. You want to chime in, Matt?
I can, yeah. So I have been using ChatGPT. I've used it quite a lot, actually. I think SEO, to a certain degree, is somewhat of a, we say you do right in eyes by the visitors, and then Google will take care of you. But what ChatGPT does, there's still going to be a driver, okay? Unless it becomes sentient, like the Google is saying that there's a sentient. But it creates content, it distills content down. It's kind of like a genie. You got to ask it like the right question in the right way. You can even ask it questions to get around their safety thresholds to answer stuff. It's pretty interesting. They've been doing that with Dan, and then Australia, or Sydney, because they've already integrated it in Bing. You saw with Google, their AI answered a question wrong, and the stock price dropped $100 million. Okay, so this is like an arms race. SEO has always been an arms race. I think like link building is still going to be important. It's part of the threshold. They're coming out with things to say this was written by AI. There's probably going to be articles at the bottom. You're going to have to claim this ad was written by AI. There's going to be kind of rules. It's just going to change. But I think Google is concerned for sure. We've been talking about voice search for a long time. Like when you ask when you ask anything that's in your house, right? Like they got all the things. Like, do you want one answer? You want 5 answers? Like how many answers do you want? So I think that it's coming a lot faster than we think. We've been using AI to generate art, like because the art that you can get from the stock places is just horrible. And from an SEO standpoint, you have unique content, you have unique video. Well, and then you use stock art, you don't get any credit for that. So you can use AI to generate stock art that's a lot more engaging and interactive. But ChatGPT is certainly on the rise, and it will be a hot topic. And I don't know exactly where it's going to go, but everybody has always said that SEO is dead, and then it's not. Like long live the king, or the king is dead, long live the king, kind of thing. So I think it will change, but I think it'll still be around. So.
Hey panel, this is from Brittany Collins online on LinkedIn. If someone is a one-person marketing team, in addition to other roles in the company, time is precious and time management is crucial. Which 2 or 3 functions of marketing would you recommend focusing on to have the highest impact? So basically, if you're a one-man marketing person in a company, what's the 2 or 3 things you recommend they focus on to have the biggest impact?
I've been a one-man marketing department many times. That's kind of how I started my career, to be honest. I would say in today's world, it would be making sure your website content is in tip-top shape, because that is where everything will point to in terms of digital marketing. I think it's interesting that none of us have really, what are your tips? And none of it has really been around like events or holding a symposium, which those things are important, but it's kind of all about digital these days. So I would say make sure your website content is in tip-top shape. If you can bring on a copywriter to kind of help you with your message and things like that. Work with your sales team to then determine what keywords need to be on your pages. And then for me, it would be SEO and social media and engaging your staff to kind of help you with that effort. Because at the end of the day, the entire organization is part of the marketing team. So use the stakeholders within your organization to kind of help drive whatever message out.
Yeah, I would say if you're a one-person team, in addition to the digital, creating kind of marketing toolkits and processes that other kind of ambassadors and stakeholders in the company can help follow if you're just a one-person team.
Audience, any other questions? Hand raises. Hold on. Of course, you're already on the other side of the room.
Hey, Robbie Foster with Barco Industries. My question is about SEO. What % of your budget goes towards AdWords specifically? And are you only focusing on bidding those up on Google, or are there any others? And if you're not on the first page of results, do you still recommend like spending that money anymore?
I mean, the budget question, it's a really small percentage, really. We try and do it organically as much as we can. So we actually partner with a company that specializes in SEO around, basically taking our existing content on the website and leveraging what we have and tweaking that and making it as SEO friendly as possible. I think that sometimes goes a longer way than buying keywords on the, SEO. I don't know if it's still called SEM, but like the search engine marketing side of things, actually paying for those. So it's a small amount really for us.
I would say, especially in an industry that is cyclical, the good and bad thing of AdWords is as soon as you start, it goes up, but as soon as you stop paying, all your ads disappear. And so, really making sure I would invest more of the budget and money into that search engine optimization that lasts no matter, if you get a smaller budget later on and you can't invest in those AdWords, you still have things organic that you've built up.
Same.
Yeah, I can speak to this a little bit. I didn't know if we were going down the road or not. It starts off with what your strategy is, what you're trying to do, who you're trying to reach. Sometimes there's not a lot of search volume for a keyword, so it doesn't make sense maybe to go after it. And maybe the budget for the AdWords that you're spending on doesn't cost a lot. You want to start out, figure out what platforms are your people on. Do you want to spend it on LinkedIn? Do you want to spend it on Nextdoor? Like, where do you want to spend it? What's your campaign? What your goals are? The data says SEO is the far greatest return you'll ever get. You can use AdWords to boost that particular keyword. There's an audition period when you launch a new blog to run some traffic to it, to get more activity on the site, which is quite helpful. Google offers so many different products. Display advertising, like you can get CPMs $4 or $5 a CPM, and you can really target even certain platforms that are partnered with Google. So like Inc., Forbes, Business Journal, whoever you're going after, whoever your target audience is, you can run ads just on those platforms with display banners. So that's what we recommend for clients that don't have that big AdWords budget, and it does go away. And so it's like you're renting, not buying. But it all goes back to the strategy to figure out what are your goals, what are you trying to do, what's your budget, and then you figure out what's the best avenue to try to achieve that. So.
Good afternoon, Bill Kroll with IADC. It was alluded to earlier, but if you wouldn't mind giving a little more clarity around the KPI question. What I was most interested in is when it got to social media, and it was because we all hear, yeah, I've got to have great content. You've got to get the people there. And I think you might have mentioned, Jackie, that one of your KPIs is number of followers, right? I mean, that's pretty straightforward. I guess clarity around converting that, or even noticing who is converted from a follower into your CRM, for example. Thank you.
Yeah, again, it goes back to what is your strategy? Are you trying to be a thought leader? Then it would be engagement and gaining those followers. If you're trying to generate leads, then that is a little bit trickier, I would say. You have to have clear call to actions that would then lead to your website. So then you can then collect their information that would then be a lead. So LinkedIn does not give you people's contact information. I mean, you have a list of your followers, right? But it does not give you a list of people's contact information or email addresses and things like that. So you've got to get them to your website. Once you get them to your website, you collect that information, and then you can track. You can then begin tracking the funnel from lead to opportunity to then sale. But then it all goes back to what is the strategy for your social media channels. Sometimes it's share a voice. Sometimes it's to gain new followers, and it could be engagement, could be leads. But there are various different KPIs for social media depending on what the strategy is.
Yeah, a lot of times, like she was saying, you have to pull them off and kind of go to a landing page to kind of really record that trackable information. But you can do that by having white papers or additional content that the social post is alluding to, and then these kind of nuggets of information that people want, lead them to that, to download that as another lead generation. And then from a more personal standpoint, if you're using social media, I've had kind of KPIs focused on messaging and kind of taking that conversation off social media, using Calendly links and technology to then use a social media post to start getting people to engage. And then how do we now take that offline and kind of get in front of the customer and that client?
Great answer. We have another question. We have one online. This is actually from Twitter. What about influencers in oil and gas? Is that a strategy that y'all have used?
Yes, but it's our own people that are influencing. So, I would say in some sense, we are leveraging our folks that are passionate about their products and want to talk about them and feel comfortable being, on camera. That's our way of, kind of having our own influencers in-house. So, but no, we would never, I won't say never, but we haven't, and I don't think we would ever hire an outside influencer for that, just for the, authenticity of the voice.
Yeah, and I think another part that we're looking at too from Kettle and Gas is kind of how can some of our clients, our partners, who are using our equipment out in the field that we're partnering with on new technologies, innovations, how can we kind of use them as an influencer? How can we use them to help share the story of these new technologies and new innovations and the results, especially when it comes to ESG, as we're all trying to figure out this kind of transition. How do we kind of talk together and make sure that from a marketing standpoint, we're being upfront at the beginning, hey, we'd like to, use social media to share this story after we do this field test. Are you okay with that? What would that look like? Who could be some of your brand ambassadors that could help, create some buzz on social media from it?
Yeah, I would say user-generated content is what we're talking about. Like that's going to make your advertising dollars go the furthest. Like finding a partnership or saying, hey, we're going to do this event. Can we bring in a videographer? Can we share the content? Like I think the partnerships are key, and that's what digital is. I think more than anything else, it's what Google and all the social media platforms are trying to capture what's happening in real life and bring it into the digital world. So the more that you can make those connections and share those things, and that's what people want to see. Like that's what the data tells you. They want to see what's going on behind the scenes. So they want to see what's going on in the field. They want to see those conversations. Like reality TV show does better than any other segment that there is. And so you creating a contest, or there's different things that you can do to create that user generated content. And you're, as a one person marketing agency, or like you want to leverage as many people as possible to get them engaged and utilize them, even getting them to share and like your stuff. Working as a community is what it's about. It's about being social online.
If anybody's looking for a completion consultant, go to LinkedIn. Johnny Earls is looking for a job. He dropped his phone number in the chat. Thank you, Johnny. Any other questions from the audience? Oh, one over here.
Dave Weaver from the Houston Regional Veterans Chamber. But asking questions on a branding guide. So you had mentioned a branding guide, but then you also mentioned a little bit deeper on providing a toolkit for your people. What does that look like, and how would it be different than a branding guide versus a branding toolkit for the salesperson or the technical experts, SMEs, things like that?
Yeah, so when I've done that in the past, you have your brand guide from a corporate standpoint. That's like, here's our colors, here's our message, here's our mission, our vision. Well, it's kind of interviewing these ambassadors. What is your mission? What is your vision? What are the things that you're really passionate about? And outlining that for them. Because you would think that may come naturally, but it doesn't always. And giving them, some of it is from a creative aspect. Also, kind of here's some templates that you can use. Even Canva and some really inexpensive technologies are out there that you can use and kind of say, here's some templates that we've created for you that may incorporate some of the larger company brand, but look a little bit different. They're created just for that kind of personal ambassador. And here are some key points that, as you're creating content, you said that these are your three biggest things, your vision and your mission for your life and what you're doing in the industry. You want to make sure you're always tying back to those things and kind of giving them that direction and guidelines. That's kind of what I've done in the past.
Yeah, I think of a toolkit as assets, right? So like tangible things you can give someone. Like if you're a one-person marketing, department, I think if anyone's ever worked in marketing, it might just be us up here, but like you're constantly asked, hey, where's the logo? Hey, where's the content for this? Hey, where's the sales flyer? I'm going to the show next week. So anytime you can consolidate those assets and say, here, you can find them yourself, like it's good for the business and also good for you to kind of free up your time.
I think it's just also making it easy for people to understand how easy it is to be an ambassador of the brand and to be an advocate for the company that they work for, tapping into their specialties or their knowledge or their technical expertise, and using that as their voice, and just kind of empowering them with the tools and with the support that they need, and then them, all of us understanding again that we're all marketers at the end of the day for the companies we work for.
Yeah, I think the only thing I could add to that is the brand guide or the marketing kit or the mood board or whatever you're utilizing. The thing that I would say that companies like the least is homegrown content from salespeople without it being approved or going through legal And so it's like a SOP. Think about it like a SOP is like, here's the guidelines, here's the images we want you to use. We don't want them smushed. We don't want them, we want to maintain brand consistency. We want you to utilize them in this way, especially if you're utilizing bloggers or anybody else. You're like, here's the tone. So you're laying out the foundation, the standard operating procedure, the directions for how you want people to use your stuff. So, well, you don't have to say it 50 times. And so they do it right, because that's, I think, the scariest thing from an in-house marketer standpoint and from a executive standpoint is you kind of let it out in the wild and you can't do anything about it. And what you want to do is you want to try to create some frameworks or some guidelines to follow. So I think it's helpful.
Yeah, we need to wind this down. I will say this much: Matt will not let me change the color of my own logo. Speaking of bringing guidelines. So round of applause for the panelists. You did a wonderful job. Justin, it's time for you to step up and wind this thing down.
Thank you to our very talented panel. Thank you to everyone who's watching online, and of course to IADC for joining us and all of our API members. Sorry, I'll see a bunch of you on Friday night at our Black Tie Gala. Otherwise, check the website for all the next meetings. And thank you very much. Have a wonderful Valentine's Day.